Taking another live look at Polaris Fashion Place. Police searching for a potential shooter. The mall was cleared after reports of shots fired. So far, no reports of injuries. Police are evacuating the mall, and we continue to see people very calmly walking out. Brios to the left of this shot.
Yeah, we don't know exactly where those shots were fired in the mall. This is just where, of course, it looks like where reporters will be set up for when the public information officer comes out. That is for Columbus Police, James Fuqua. We saw him there on the scene, so I'm sure he's probably gathering some information and will be updating all of us in just a bit. But keep it right here on air online, NBC4i.com. All
right, some businesses choosing to keep mask mandates in place, even though that some states have been rolling back those restrictions.
Digital anchor Christine Barconi joining us now from the NBC4i Streaming Center with a look at some of the stories making headlines online this afternoon. Christine.
Good afternoon, Brad and Darlene. Yes, several states have dropped or have plans to drop COVID-19 mask mandate. But Kroger, the second largest grocery employer in the country, will not do so until all of their frontline workers can get a vaccine. A Kroger company spokesperson confirmed with me today that the Ohio-based company says they have been advocating for the prioritization of grocery store workers. But we do want to go to some breaking news right now.
You know when everybody's good?
This is James Fuqua, PIO with Columbus Police, giving an update on what's happening at Polaris right now.
All right, so unfortunately we're here just less than 2 weeks ago for an incident that occurred here at Polaris Fashion Place. Today, officers received a call just after 3:17 p.m. that shots were fired inside the mall area, and we were able to confirm that there were actually shots fired inside the mall on the first level. We can also confirm this occurred in the main area of the first floor. So this did not actually occur inside of an actual store, but we did have multiple shots fired by two groups that we believe that were having a confrontation with each other. We don't have a lot of details at this point as to who these individuals were, why they had the altercation, but we can confirm that multiple shots were fired between the two groups in the altercation. Unfortunately, the only description that we can provide right now is that these groups were young and they were black males and possibly one female with the group. So right now we're still processing the scene. As you can see behind me, we are still clearing the mall out as we have been slowly and meticulously making sure that we take all of the employees and any of the shoppers that were still inside out safely. We are still considering this an active scene until we're absolutely certain that the mall is cleared from all of these suspects. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot more information, but I'll try to take a couple questions if anyone has any.
To be clear, no one was injured?
Yes, no injuries reported. We did not find any victims, but there was, this time it was much more clear as opposed to last time that shots were fired because we were able to recover evidence fairly quickly.
By evidence, do you mean a gun?
Shell casings specifically.
Is there any reason to believe this is in any way connected to the incident a little less than 2 weeks ago?
We don't believe it is connected, but obviously it's so early into it, we're not going to rule anything out.
And did you say how many people exactly between these two groups?
So we're working through that right now. We don't want to say how many specifically. I can tell you there were at least 3 between the two groups and at least one female. Again, all of the people we believed were involved were young black males and one black female.
What's the likelihood they're still here on the premises?
I mean, anything's possible at this point with the amount of time that has passed. And again, what we learned from last time, there's always a possibility that they did actually escape, but we want to be absolutely sure that they're not here anymore.
Are you looking for surveillance video at this time? Was it viewable from surveillance video?
So yes, we were able to gather some surveillance video and capture some of the images of some of the people that were involved. I can't say if we got video of everyone that was involved in the two groups, but right now we were working with that. We're working with neutral eyewitnesses and a few other accounts that are going to help us hopefully solve this case.
What location of the mall was it?
So this was on the first floor, like in the open area. to be specific, without naming certain stores, it was just kind of in the general rotunda area where it's in the open. So I know in Polaris there's 2 big openings, so this would have been the opening more to the north than the east, or excuse me, to the south.
No reports of injuries, you said?
So no reports of any injuries, that's correct.
Did you say three suspects total, perhaps? Or?
Well, we can confirm at least 3 people were involved, but we believe there are more between the 2 groups, but we feel comfortable at least releasing right now that there are 3 people involved in the altercation.
So, to be clear, 1 person shooting, 2 people shooting at each other?
We do know that at least 1 person between the 2 groups shot. We're trying to determine if both groups actually shot at each other and there was return or exchange of gunfire, but we do know for sure at least 1 person between the 2 groups shot, if that makes sense.
What is the frustration level for you, knowing that we were just out here 2 weeks ago for a very similar incident, a very popular, busy shopping mall?
It's frustrating not only for me personally, but for everyone. You know, we never wake up and think going to a very popular shopping destination like this one, or frankly anywhere in the city of Columbus, and think in the middle of the day on a weekday that 2 groups are going to have a problem with each other and pull out a gun to address whatever issues that they have with each other. And especially for me particularly, I'm very upset. It's going to be very visible at some point when the detectives want to release whatever evidence we have, either video or still shots, that these are clearly young people. These are young people, yet again, in our city who is committing acts of violence that is putting the life of innocent people in danger. And it's beyond frustrating.
Have you had conversations with the managers here at Polaris about their security and if there's anything differently that they may be doing?
Well, I know from the last incident we had, they addressed several concerns, and they wanted to make sure that they had a plan in place for if this incident ever happened again. And I'm confident, based on the information that they received and how they treated it, that this was done a little more swiftly and correctly. So we're definitely thankful for that, because again, there's no injuries and no victims. So I want to commend the staff and the security here at the mall for doing their part, as well as the patrol officers who came quickly without thinking and doing their job.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many people may have been cleared from the mall in that time period?
I'm not sure, but just in the time period that I've been here, it's definitely in the hundreds. I mean, there's including employees as well. So we cleared out quite a few people. And like I said, we learned from the last incident, and the way we cleared people out this time was much more efficient.
How long do you guys expect to be here tonight?
We'll be here for quite a while. Again, this is a fairly large scene. Even though we've contained where we think most of the evidence is located, we're still going to make sure that we check every single area to make sure we don't miss anything. So we'll be here for a couple of hours. So I fully anticipate the mall being closed for an extended period of time, if it even opens back up today. And lastly, any information that we have will come from our assault squad unit.
Any updates on the previous shooting? Are those 2 suspects still at large?
They are still at large, and we are still working to gather information on that. So we definitely want to make sure, again, like we said before, if people have information, our city has been very good at providing us that information. You can contact us, social media, anonymous calls, whatever it takes. We clearly know that someone knows where they are. And usually it doesn't take this long, so I'm hoping that someone will see that this has occurred again and will come forward with information either from this incident or the incident before.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
You're looking at a live situation out there at Polaris Fashion Place, where again the PIO, James Fuqua, with the Columbus Police Department, saying that at this point, this is another week, another shooting there at Polaris. They do not know at this point if those 2 are connected, but he did say it happened on the 1st floor, an open area, general rotunda area closer towards the south end of the mall, without naming any stores in the area. But he did point out that these are the very vague description, and we do mean vague description, 3 African-American men, young men, and possibly 1 woman. Those are who they believe they're looking for at this point.
And still don't know whether that contains all of the group that was involved in this fighting. Didn't name the groups, but said there were 2 groups. Still can't even tell us whether or not there was return fire, but they do have shell casings, say they do have video, they do have eyewitnesses at this point. And we had talked about this in the first place. about 2 weeks ago that on full staff, there are about 800 employees at that mall, and then the shoppers on top of that. As Sergeant Fuqua said, several hundred have come out of the mall at this point.
Yeah, and he's also talking about how those shots were fired about 3:17, and because this did just happen last week, they're a little bit more efficient at getting shoppers and employees out of the mall. And they're making sure, too, that this time the gunman, gunwoman, whoever pulled the trigger is not walking out with the rest of the employees and the shoppers out there.
So we're past an hour and a half past the first shots that were fired. We're continuing to gather information.
Got team coverage out there. Got a couple of reporters out there on the scene and some cameras out there. So.
We'll do it out there and online. We'll be right back after this break.